The transport shuttle was a relic, smelling of stale coolant and despair. It rattled through the lower atmospheric lanes of the massive orbital bazaar, known as the Crossroads, ferrying its cargo of the downtrodden, the migrant workers, and the hopeless. Among them was a human. He was a big man, even by the standards of his species, with broad shoulders that seemed to wear his faded gray worksuit like a burden. His face was placid, a mask of quiet endurance over features hardened by a gravity stronger than this station's. He was just another set of muscles for hire, heading to the docking sectors. Across the narrow aisle sat an alien mother of the vril species. Her slender, chitinous form coiled protectively around a small child. The mother's large, luminous eyes, the color of deep amethyst, darted nervously. Her delicate antennae trembled. She was far from the crystalline spires of her homeworld, vulnerable. The child, curious, peeked at the human, her tiny mandibles clicking softly. The trouble began at the shuttle's next stop. The doors hissed open, and 3 Catharn laborers boarded, hulking with pebbled gray skin and small, cruel eyes. They were known for their belligerence and their disdain for fragile species. They swaggered down the aisle, their presence pushing against the other passengers. One of them, the largest, stumbled deliberately against the vril mother's seat. She flinched, pulling her daughter closer. "Watch your spindly limbs," the Catharn grunted, his translator box emitting a harsh, metallic tone. The mother lowered her head in a universal sign of submission, her antennae lying flat. But the Catharn was not satisfied. He leaned in, his breath fogging the chitinous plate of her shoulder. "This shuttle is for workers, not for glitterbugs who break at a touch." The human continued to look out the viewport, his expression unchanged. The other passengers shrunk into their seats. The Catharn reached a thick-fingered hand toward the vril child, not to strike, but to frighten, to assert dominance. "Maybe the little one needs to learn to be tough." That was the line. The human's head turned. It was not a swift movement, but a slow, deliberate pivot. He said nothing. He simply rose to his full height, his shadow falling over the Catharn. The worksuit strained across his back. The Catharn sneered, turning his attention to this new challenge. "The soft skin has something to say." The human remained silent. He stepped into the aisle, placing himself squarely between the Catharn and the vril pair. He shook his head once, a clear, simple negation dot. It was all the provocation needed. The lead Catharn roared and swung a fist like a hammer. The human could have dodged. He could have fought back. Instead, he shifted his stance, turned his shoulder, and took the blow. A sickening thud echoed in the cabin. The human grunted, a sharp exhale of air, but his feet did not move. He was a wall. Enraged, the other two joined. Blows rained down on the human's back, his ribs, his raised arms. He did not strike back. He absorbed the violence, each impact a dull, wet sound against his body. He swayed but did not fall, his gaze fixed on a point on the floor, his jaw clenched so tight the muscles stood out like cables. He was taking the beating, making it his, so it would not become theirs. The vril mother clutched her child, her luminous eyes wide with a horror that slowly transformed into something else, a profound, stunned comprehension. This stranger was using his body as a shield. He was trading his pain for their safety. The assault lasted less than a minute before the shuttle's automated security system finally registered the disturbance. Stun fields pulsed from the ceiling, dropping the Catharn into twitching heaps. The human remained standing for a second longer, then slowly, carefully, sank into his seat, breathing in ragged, controlled gasps. At the next port, medical drones floated in. The Catharn were carted away. A drone approached the human, scatter lights flashing over his torso. Multiple contusions. 2 fractured ribs. Recommend immediate treatment. The human waved it off with a bruised hand. I'm fine. The Vril mother uncoiled herself. She approached him, her movements graceful and hesitant. She reached out, then drew back, as if afraid her touch would add to his pain. Why? She asked, her voice a soft, melodic chime through her translator. You did not know us. The human looked at her, then at the child hiding behind her mother's slender leg. He managed a faint, pained smile. Seemed like the thing to do. He stood, wincing, and moved toward the exit. His shift at the docks was about to start. She watched him go, a solitary, battered figure limping into the chaotic streams of the crossroads. Her daughter tugged on her hand. Mother? Will the big soft skin be all right? The mother did not answer immediately. A feeling, fierce and warm and entirely unfamiliar, had rooted itself in her heart. It was not just gratitude. It was a revelation. In a universe of cold transactions and casual cruelty, she had witnessed a different kind of strength. Not the strength to inflict, but the strength to endure. Not the strength of possession, but the strength of protection. And she desired that strength. Not to own it, but to have it near. To be in its light. She began to search. It took days. The crossroads was a city of millions, but the memory of the big human in the gray worksuit was a bright beacon in her mind. She asked at docking bays and cargo manifests, describing not just his appearance, but the quiet dignity in his eyes, the steadfast set of his shoulders. She found him on the outer cargo rim, guiding a massive pallet of machinery with a manual control lever. He moved stiffly, favoring his right side. She waited until his task was complete. You are injured. You should not be working, she said, stepping from the shadows. He turned, surprised. Recognition flickered in his eyes. Bills don't pay themselves. I have a proposal, she said, her antennae held high. I am a coordinator for a stellar mineral guild. My work is here, on the crossroads, but it requires travel to dangerous ports. I have security, but it is transactional. I need a pillar. She chose the word carefully. What you did on the shuttle. That was not a transaction. I wish to hire that. Not just your body, but your presence. Your judgment. He frowned. I'm a dock worker. You are more, she insisted, her amethyst eyes holding his. I can offer you a salary that will cover your bills and a berth on my secure vessel. In return, you stand as you did. You be the pillar that does not bend when the pressure comes. He was silent for a long time, looking out at the endless stars beyond the docking bay force field. His life was one of endless, grinding weight. Here was a different kind of weight, one with meaning. A purpose that fit the strange, protective instinct he had always carried and never had a name for. All right, he said simply. Their arrangement began professionally. He was her personal security attach. He stood behind her during negotiations with rough-edged asteroid miners. He walked beside her daughter to the station's learning modules. His silent, watchful presence deterred trouble before it began. He healed, and his strength returned, but now it was a known quantity, a tool he used with deliberate care. The desire in the Vril mother deepened. It was not a biological imperative, but a cultural and spiritual awakening. Her people valued beauty, elegance, and intellectual harmony. This human had shown her a new aesthetic, the beauty of sacrifice, the elegance of resilience, the harmony of silent strength. She found herself studying the way he moved, the careful consideration in his actions, the deep, unspoken kindness he showed her daughter. The child adored him, following him like a shadow, chattering about her lessons, and he listened with a patience that seemed as deep as space. One evening, on her private observation deck, she approached him. The nebula outside painted the room in soft hues of violet and blue, reminiscent of her homeworld skies. "You have given us peace," she said. "A safety I have not known since I left the crystal forests. It is more than a job to you now." He nodded, watching the colors swirl. "The kid's a good kid. She reminds me of the reason to keep going." "And what is my reason?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "For cycles, it has been advancement, provision, survival. Now, I find my reason is to come back to this ship, to see the two of you reviewing her learning tablets. It is a different kind of survival. A better one." She moved closer. The chitinous plate of her hand touched his, a gesture as foreign to her as his sacrifice had been. It was not the touch of her species, but it was her touch. "I do not wish for a protector for hire any longer. I wish for the pillar to know it is cherished, that its strength is seen and honored and desired." He turned his hand, his big, calloused fingers enveloping hers with a gentleness that belied their power. He understood. This was not about repayment. It was an offering, an invitation to a shared space, a recognition of a bond that had formed in the crucible of a shuttle car. He had taken the blows, and in doing so, he had shattered her old understanding of the universe and built a new one in its place. He looked at their joined hands, then into her luminous, earnest eyes. "I'm not going anywhere," he said, and in that simple statement, under the light of a foreign nebula, the human who had borne violence without returning, it found a different kind of strength, one that was shared, warmed by a gratitude that had blossomed into something profound, and returned by a desire born of the deepest respect. He had taken the blows for her daughter, and in return, the alien mother had given him a home.